We're live. It is Tuesday, about 1:15. It's also January 16th, 2024. Um, Continuing my streak. Again, I'm getting the year, if not the day or the date, correct. I am at least getting 2024 correct for 16 days in a row. Might be a record for me. Um, it's a snowy day. The first substantial snowfall, not a ton, but enough. Maybe 6, 7 inches, enough to make things not so fun being outside when you're trying to walk, when you're trying to run. When I was training for ultra running, I dreaded the snow. Not because I didn't appreciate it, not because I didn't think it was pretty. Um, it's hard to train for a 100-mile race and get your miles in, especially if you're training for a spring race. My big race was CNO 100, and it was always in April, meaning January and January and February were crucial to getting in the miles. And I was doing double runs on the weekends. So I was doing big mileage on Saturday morning and then Saturday afternoon, and then Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon. As a matter of fact, in the last weekend in February or right around March, um, I pulled in over 100 miles in a weekend. I think I did 27 miles Saturday morning, followed by 26 miles in the afternoon. And then Sunday, I did 24 in the morning and 26 or 27 in the afternoon. So I knew I was going to finish that race, no doubt. But bad weather would put that sense of dread that you're not going to get your miles in. And I'm sort of happy to be removed from that. Um, that incessant drive to always do more, to always do better. Nothing the matter with it, but it can be wearisome. I'm not 100% sure that's the word. Our friend Osiris, Derek, is here. Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Derek. How are you? I'm sure you're having, at least looking at your video, which I'm assuming was from yesterday, you're having that typical Southern California weather. But again, thinking in terms of that drive of if you get 50K, you immediately start thinking of your 50 miler. If you get 50 miles, you immediately start thinking of 100. For me, I started thinking of 100 as soon as I said I was going to be an ultra runner. That was the end goal. I knew it was going to happen. Getting 50K and 50 miles and all the other stuff, I didn't think of them as steps to that 100. Each one was something in and of itself, which if you're going to be an ultra runner, that's the way to do it, in my opinion. Because if you're always thinking of the next race, I know so many of my ultra running friends would fall into that after race depression. I worked too hard, I achieved this goal, and now I feel bereft of, I got to get a next race. I don't know what to do. I never really had that. I had that, for one, I raced every month, so I always knew a race was coming up. For two, it was just a celebration. I did it. I'm happy. And even the races I didn't finish, I was completely happy having been out there. A long day in the woods. Nothing beats that. Nothing in the world. If you set out for 100 miles and you run 60, you still spent 60 miles in the woods. If you're fortunate enough to run by a river or across the river or cross streams or run up a mountain or run down a mountain, if you see a deer, if you see a bear, if you see a porcupine, man, who would want to miss that? Anyway, that's my ultra running philosophy. Derek says, doing well. Thank you, Chile, for here. Chile is 70 degrees, 75 degrees. We're actually fortunate that we're in the mid 20s right now, and so much of surrounding states are really close to zero, in the teens. I think we might hit the teens tonight. The past 2, 3 years, we've been so fortunate with the weather that, I can't complain about snow. I probably will complain about snow. What I'm saying is I shouldn't complain about the snow. My Here's my view of snow. It's a necessary function of nature. It can be very pretty. It's extremely good for the next upcoming season. It gives us a chance for the earth to rehydrate. However, it is very dangerous for a lot of people. We don't have a substantial homeless population here, but we have some. Um, and in the neighboring counties, Baltimore, for instance, has a very big homeless population, as does DC, as does Annapolis and some of the other mid to larger cities. As well, for people, older people, people who might be incapacitated for whatever reason, have a hard time getting out. It's extremely dangerous for them, extremely dangerous for anyone with health concerns. So I don't celebrate snow, but I can appreciate it what it brings. It's just nature. It's how it works. Um, I get a lot of feedback. Feedback is a polite, friendly way of saying criticism from my friends, especially on Facebook, for my views, all of my views, every single one of my views, um, especially from those who have known me the longest. But you know what? They've also put up with me the longest, so they deserve to have their say, as, as far as I'm concerned. I don't begrudge anyone their opinion of me, including myself. And I don't believe any of them either. It's just a story they tell about me. And it's just a story I tell about myself. None of it is actually true. No story is actually true. It's just a version of the truth. So how could I get upset? That's why I don't get upset about YouTube comments. And I don't get as many. My stepdaughter said, she warned me about starting a YouTube channel. She said they will eat you alive. You'll engage with the trolls. You'll try to be friends with everyone, and you're going to end up hating it and leaving. And I've actually had the opposite experience, although I have befriended trolls, and many of them have become subscribers and communicate fairly regularly. My one rule for trolls, two rules. It's actually one going into the other, sort of. Be funny. If you're gonna troll me, be funny. Make me laugh, make me smile, and be original. If you're saying the old stuff that everyone's heard forever, what's the use? If you're gonna be a troll, be a clever troll, in my opinion. But honestly, I haven't had that that badly of an experience. So anyway, back to snow, and my views on it, and my friends, they'd love to celebrate snow. It's a day off. I don't have to take the train into work, or kids get to stay home and we all go sledding. And I have happy memories of the same, of snow, being a kid, sledding all day, coming home, mother making me hot chocolate, my brother and I, my sister, my friends, shoveling snow to make some money, all that good stuff. But as you get older and you widen your view of the world and you see the difficulties that others go through, it's hard to have that same type of celebration. And again, it doesn't mean you don't appreciate the beauty. When I was walking early this morning, well before the sun came up, and I could clearly see the deer tracks, I could see the rabbit tracks. I could hear the geese actually sliding along the ice of the pond that I walked by. It was just absolutely beautiful. But at the same time, I've seen enough of the world to know there's danger in this type of weather for so many people. And my empathy and compassion pulls me in that direction. So I wanted to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King. Yesterday was Martin Luther King Day, and it is a day that is unfortunately a 3-day holiday. And again, I might get some abuse for this. It's a day that should be honored. I always think, though, that days, those important occasions, are better served by an hour of silence. Because you make a 3-day holiday on a Monday, which is great for so many people, don't get me wrong. But the day itself loses some of the significance. Becomes a day to buy a mattress or a new car, or a movie opens up on it or something like that. Our friend Destiny Forever Walks, PhD, is here. Grand Tuesdays and blessing to you, Eric. How are you? I'm doing well, actually. Thank you. Thank you for asking me. Our friend Derek is here as well. I was just talking nonsense about snow, and now I'm talking a little bit about Martin Luther King Day being yesterday, and how I really think that it's an extremely important day, or the occasion is extremely important. It's an important honor, but it loses some of that significance when it becomes part of that 3-day holiday. I think people lose track of what it means and what it's about, especially considering Dr. King was born in 1929. By all rights, he should have still been alive. He was taken from the world because of who and what he was. Amazingly so. Somebody comes here to do that, to do good, his entire life, and taken for that very reason. Never ceases to amaze me. And when you think of that, having it as a day to, again, 40% off sale somewhere, in my view, just tends to diminish it slightly. Because are you thinking about Dr. King, or are you thinking about what you can do on a 3-day weekend? So far, I've sounded like a complete party dampener, given bad reviews for the snow and bad reviews for 3-day weekends. But by the 3-day weekend, I mean the best of it. Because I really think we need a Dr. King right now. I know many people believe we live in a post-racist world, a post-racist society. It's great to think so. I don't believe it is. Not only that, we need someone to lead us out of this political turmoil, someone to help even out the classes a bit. And by that, I don't mean that everyone makes the same. What I mean is that everyone is treated as humanely as possible, as compassionately as possible. I always hear about the homeless problem, and the problem is always concerned with what do people with homes do to fix the problem of people without homes. And it's never, what do we do to help the people who are homeless have homes? And it can be done. One of my favorite, let's see if I can find it, quotes from Buckminster Fuller. If you guys aren't familiar with Buckminster Fuller, he is definitely worth everything that he says and does. Was absolutely amazing. And it was all, again, for the benefit of others. And it used to be when someone made their fortune, they immediately turned to, now what can I do for others? And nowadays it is make our fortune and how can I make more? You see very little, how can I give back? How can I serve? Osiris says, long from a post-racist society. Yeah, sadly so. Interesting concept opposed to long weekend. I think we should have a long weekend for the sake of a long weekend. Because we deserve it. Because we work hard. Because, you know what? It's important to enjoy the time that we have because we don't get it back. Ever. Why wait until the golden retirement age? Especially nowadays. Especially when there are some who would like to make it more difficult to retire or to be retired. Um, so why wait? Take a 3-day weekend now. Take a 3-day weekend every other week. Um, I'm 100% for 3-day weekends or a continuous weekend in some cases. Um, but some days, I think a day like Martin Luther King Day should be exclusive for the honor and make it a solemn occasion. Have some speeches, have some, I don't know. Osiris says, can homelessness be fixed? Homelessness is a symptom of a much larger set of problems. We have a major intolerance of imbalance of wealth distribution. I consider myself a part of that imbalance. But you're aware of it. And I think that makes a difference. Also, everything I sense about you is of a compassionate, empathetic person. Even to the point where I don't think you would ever even be forceful with your views. That you're someone who, you know what you know, and you stick by it, but you don't need to make someone else wrong, even if they might be wrong, is the sense that I get. And so I think when you have that empathy and when you have that compassion and the intelligence that goes with it, by being aware, something can be done. And can it be fixed? I don't know. It's not, as you said, is it something that can be fixed? Or let me bring up, if I can find it, that Buckminster Fuller comment. I saw it not too long ago. Okay. Let me read Destiny's comment. We need a Moses and Aaron to lead us out of the mess we're in. Yes, definitely. And into a promised land. And we had one. Who knows where Martin Luther King would have taken everyone, because he was truly for everyone. I wrote about him on my blog this morning, and what I wanted to do was talk about how he was a yogi, because he truly was. He visited India in 1959 to study with those who had lived and worked with Gandhi. He was a big fan of Gandhi's autobiography, My Experiment with Truth, and he lived by those principles, and he died by those principles. He never resorted to violence, but he would have addressed homelessness. He was turning his attention to Vietnam, and oddly enough, it might be that which got him assassinated and not the civil rights movement. Let's see. That was what Dr. Luther King did for the people. Exactly. At least I perceive it that way. I perceive it that way as well. Osiris says Buckminster was amazing. Absolutely. And again, he was someone, he could have made millions of dollars, which back then would be the equivalent of billions of dollars. Maybe he could have made billions of dollars. But he cared too much about people and the planet. Ahead of his time. I'm not sure when he passed away, but he is still ahead of his time. Dr. King was ahead of his time. Gandhi was ahead of his time. And at the same moment, they were completely of their time. exactly what the world needed. Isn't it amazing that that right person springs up almost organically to face the situation and how it needs to be faced, and that they galvanize people behind them. And as Destiny was saying, we need a Moses and Aaron. We lack that. You know what else we lack? We even lack a soundtrack. In the 1960s, you had a soundtrack of a generation plan for that change. Maybe I'm just out of touch with modern music because I'm immersed in 1950 to 1960 jazz. So it could be. You know, maybe they do, but I just don't see this. And maybe it will come. Maybe because the planet is in such need of saving that we're on the cusp of some big major movement. Anyway, let's talk. Let's read this quote. It is now highly feasible to take care of everyone on Earth at a higher standard of living than we have ever known. It no longer has to be you or me. Selfishness is unnecessary. War is obsolete. It is a matter of converting our high technology from weaponry to livingry, to the word he coined. Which is amazing when you think if we took just a fraction of the defense budget and used it to help the homeless, to feed those in need, just a fraction. And we would still have the highest defense budget of any nation on earth. We also have to think we need a paradigm shift. And you know, again, guys, I'm just sprouting off my own thoughts. So when I say things like we need or whatever, take it, you know, for what it might be worth. But definitely, in my view, a paradigm shift, meaning how we think now is radically changed to the point where we can't even conceive of how we used to think of the world. It amazes me that there's some counties in Florida and probably other places as well that have made homelessness illegal, which serves what end, what purpose? Because no one's homeless, although I hear otherwise on some news networks, that no one's homeless on purpose. And they say otherwise. My view is no one's homeless on purpose unless you are, you know, I don't know. I'm thinking in terms of back in the, you know, 1930s when you could ride the rails. Jack Kerouac living in his car. That's a different scenario than what we're talking about, than the conversation we're having here. The conversation we're having here is there are some people who are simply one paycheck away from losing everything. And I know, again, there's some commentators who say, well, they should have planned differently. They should have been prepared. They should have. You can't shouldn't your way through life. Who knows why people are in a situation they're in? And who's to say they should be or they shouldn't be? It's just not. Again, we're offering opinion in the face of catastrophe, which serves absolutely nothing. Buckminster Fuller. About a month or so ago, I read his quote, "Dare to be naive," which is another one I absolutely love. Probably more so than any other. I actually like the one that I just read because, again, he's calling for a paradigm shift. Let's see. We're going to pull up some Buckminster Fuller stuff. This is probably my absolute favorite. Dare to be naive. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. We should do away with the absolute specious notion that everyone has to earn a living. People can argue, about it, but you need to earn a living. You need to put your shoulder to the grindstone. You need to do this. You need to do that. That's simply how we were brought up to believe. But again, what he's calling for is a paradigm shift, meaning take your beliefs and flip them around. See the world differently. Dare to be naive. And that's what people would say. They would read that and say, well, of course everyone has to earn a living. That's naive to think so. And he's saying, or to think that you can. And he's saying, yes, it is naive. Dare to be naive, because you are creating a whole new world, a whole new reality. The only way to do that, I think it was Maxwell Planck, the physicist, who talked about a new reality only comes into existence when those who have the old beliefs eventually pass away. Something along those lines. The reality that we have now is not the reality that our parents had or their parents had, generation after generation going back. Somewhere along the line, someone dared to be naive and created a better world. However, it seems each succeeding generation, the majority starts thinking, well, this is as good as it gets. There's no longer any reason to dare to be naive. So let's go back. But Mr. Fuller actually rose to fame as a architect. I absolutely love taking a name, like I did it yesterday with Dr. King, and just diving in and seeing what comes up and what to explore. So Buckminster Fuller was an American architect, system theorist, which I have no idea what that is, author, designer, inventor, and futurist. The geodome is what Osiris just brought up, which the geodome works on pressure, I believe, right? I think. The geodesic dome, he invented different cars, different maps of the earth. Basically outside of the box thinking all the way across. Osiris says, have you seen my Maxon? I'm probably getting that wrong, map on my garage wall. I don't think I've noticed it, triangles. But now I'm going to look the next time I tune in. It says he developed the World Game, a collaborative simulation game where the objective is to make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest time possible through spontaneous cooperation without ecological offense or disadvantage of everyone. But just an amazing mind to think that way. And that's what we need, well, we need people to think that way, and at the same time, we need people to believe that it's possible. I think about that with my own um, creative projects that I'm working on, that I still haven't quite made that shift of believing it's possible for me to make my living solely through um, my own creativity, putting content out there, putting content out there that helps people in some way. But once you make that shift, who knows what's possible? Sarah says, I think he wrote the manual for Spaceship Earth or something like that. Um, it sounds like um, it sounds Buckminster-ish for sure. I was actually just looking at his Feeding the Hungry, which a passion of his, as well as Housing the Homeless was a passion for his. Let's see, I'm not sure when he passed away. 1983, 1895, 1983. So here's someone, 1895, and what he saw. He was certainly a man who lived beyond his age, meaning that, as it says in his description, it's a futurist. And the future he envisioned was one that worked for everyone. And then I think of today's heroes. I don't ever want to take away anything from anyone. I don't want to be the person that picks on Elon Musk or any of the other major superstar rich people. It's just, I don't want to pick on anyone, to be honest with you. At the same time, it is hard for me to imagine a bigger waste than a personal space shuttle when I think of what could be done. I believe I read a figure somewhere that Bezos makes enough in a day that he could provide food and shelter for like this insane percentage of people in the United States, let alone the world. But not to, if anyone views this and hears me talk about climate change and would like to reply, there's no such thing as climate change or whatever. I don't ever want to debate that, at least on my YouTube channel. To me, it doesn't seem like it's debatable. We know for a fact the world is literally burning. We saw the fires in Canada. We have the fires in the West. Our friend Paul from Oregon suffered through the fires, breathing issues due to the fires, as well as other friends that I've had. Here in Maryland, we actually had smoke warning days, air quality warning days from the Canadian fires. It's close to 1,000 miles away, actually over 1,000 miles, I believe. The world's burning. So to take a space shuttle and add to that burning for absolutely what? And I think his answer was to show the potentiality for what the human mind can accomplish. Man, you can do better than that. Feed someone, give someone a home, pay someone's college tuition. I don't know. There's infinite better ways than a space shuttle. Osiris says, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I actually knew you would. 11.5 million people reported below poverty in America alone. Um, a figure from Osiris. And that's just shameful. And the thing is, where I don't want to pick out one party over another, one political party. I'm going to say the Republican Party only because they're the ones highlighted right now as far in political season. They had their vote yesterday and they've had the debates. So I'm not picking on one over the other. Did anyone ever mention that 11.5 million people below poverty in America? And did they have a plan other than let's tax the rich less? And that's what amazes me. Every single politician, regardless of party, should be talking about that. You know who talks about that? Marianne Williamson. I'm not endorsing one candidate over another, but Marianne Williamson is definitely putting people first above politics itself. And again, I'm not saying she's one to vote for. I don't know if she could get that done if she was elected. However, I like the fact that someone's talking about this. Osiris says that is for 18 and younger. And what hope do they have? If we don't make that paradigm shift now, what hope does that 11.5 million people have? Destiny says, exactly, Osiris, something is wrong with that. A country that claimed to be rich shouldn't have any citizen living in poverty. Poverty should be obsolete. Doesn't mean everyone makes the same amount of money. Doesn't mean some people can't be well off. It means everyone should be provided for. And people would say, well, is that fair? I work hard. Take care of yourself. I hear a lot of talk about a Christian nation, but I've never heard Jesus say, what's in it for me, anywhere in the Bible. I never heard Jesus say, look after yourself, and if you have a little extra, maybe, hand out a little bit here, a little bit there, but only if you think you can afford it, if it's not going to hurt you, if it's not going to affect the quality of your life. Osiris says another 51 million over 18. It's just sad because it doesn't have to be. Again, a fraction of what we spend on defense. And, I always hear the voices of my more overtly political friends say, well, we need, but even if we took a fraction, we would still have the highest defense budget of any nation on earth, many times over. We could probably streamline it quite a bit. One of my best friends, a couple years ago, retired from the Air Force. Mocha retired from the Air Force after 23 plus years. And both would mention to me a lot of the waste that goes in to projects that they both worked on with an immense amount of money invested in that was just on the moment scrapped. It's over. It's done. We're moving on to something else. Let's see. Destiny says, thanks, Eric and Osiris, for sharing facts, wisdom, and knowledge. I have to leave now. Thank you for stopping by. You have a great, healthy, and blessed day. You too, my friend. I appreciate you being here. Conversation is always better when you join. That's probably actually a good time to end it as well. I don't know where else to go. The conversation, I think we hit that bypass. because we see those numbers, we see those figures, and we think, that's so overwhelming. What can I do? Well, one thing you can do, and one thing we can all do, is have conversations like this. Simply acknowledge it. And then start thinking. If we ask ourselves, what can I do? Maybe we get an answer. Or maybe we say it aloud and someone says, I don't know, but let's figure it out together. Or we look for that political candidate who says, I have an idea. So yeah, I should probably end it, or maybe I'll end up getting political, and I don't want to. It just doesn't seem worth it. I'd rather think of solutions than talk solely about um, those type of issues. Maybe I'm naive, and as Buckminster Fuller said, dare to be naive. What I'm thankful for, what I'm fortunate for, is that I have someone on YouTube across the country like Osiris who dares to be naive as well, that I have a friend in Alabama, Destiny Forever Walks, who dares to be naive as well, and who actually is showing me the way creatively on how to navigate the YouTube creative jungle, which I very much appreciated, and I'm seeing great results from listening to many of her suggestions. Um, so yeah, dare to be naive. That's the theme. And again, I appreciate those who have that same um, courage to think outside the box. Derek, thanks. Appreciate you being here. And I will see everyone tomorrow morning for burpees. Always good. Great way to start the day. Take care, guys.